welcome to today's event brought to you by Matchboard in partnership with the BPO Council of Fiji. Our event is entitled The New Operations Hub for Online Retail and Marketplaces, Fiji, and it will run for about 1 hour. During this time, we hope to inform you and inspire you to consider Fiji for your outsourcing needs. We'll be kicking off with 2 case studies, and then we'll have a panel discussion with 3 of the leading BPOs in Fiji joining us. And to conclude, we'll have time for audience Q&A. So just think of your questions as we go along, and feel free to drop the questions in the chat room at any time, or you can actually ask them in person. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Sharon Melamed, Managing Director of Matchboard, and I'll shortly introduce our first speaker, but just some quick housekeeping. Firstly, we are recording this event. Secondly, if you have internet issues, you can dial in with the phone number and passcode in the calendar invite. And finally, could I just ask you to stay on mute till we get to question time? Okay, so now it is my great pleasure to introduce Charlotte McClay, who is Head of Customer Service at the Oodie.
Hi, everyone.
Hi. So Charlotte is going to present her experience offshoring to Fiji. So over to you, Charlotte, to share your slides.
Cool. I'll just share my screen, guys. I got a little presentation for you. So welcome to the Oodie. As I mentioned before, as Sharon mentioned before, I'm Charlotte and I'm the Head of Customer Service here at the Oodie. So I'll take you through, oh no, sorry, it's not, there we go. I'll take you through who we are. So the Oodie, our brand launched back in April 2018 with very humble beginnings. So it was just 2 brothers starting out in Adelaide out of their family's warehouse. So fast forward only a few short years and we now have over 1 million happy customers across the globe, which has made us one of the fastest growing e-commerce brands. Since our inception, our vision's been to take over and shake up the world of comfort. Customers can count on us to make them feel good with both our products and our customer care. Every time a customer encounters our brand, they can't help but have a bit of a cheeky smile spreading across their face. Our customers love us and we adore them too. So our customer service is so important to us. For our needs, so our rapid growth was through 2020 and 2021. So it was a pretty tumultuous time. We battled supply chain issues, Brexit, general COVID curveballs, which very plentiful, which I'm sure you all guys are across. So with customer care front of mind, we needed to find a way to communicate with our customers in a fast and expert manner. Part of my role being Head of Customer Service was to find the best customer care partner that ticked all of our needs and could grow with our business. Some of the things that were really important to us were a high level of written customer care. We deal with email and chat only, so we don't actually have a phone service. So it's really important that we are well articulated. A partnership with a company that's in line with our values. A place that can do self-training options. Have our Oodie friendly tone. We certainly have a specific way of speaking to our customers, and something that's scalable to scale up in our busiest season. So winter in Australia, we do definitely grow. And then in our December period over in the UK, we go absolutely nuts as well. So why Fiji? I've done a lot of research and had previous experience with offshore customer care in my previous roles. So it was pretty clear to me that Fiji was the way to go. By nature, Fijians are friendly, bubbly, which kind of falls in line with our brand and our Oodie tone that I spoke about before. I looked into other countries like South Africa and Croatia, but their directness was a little bit too abrasive for us. Although they were quite direct, it wasn't that lovely, fun, bubbly value that we hold so tight. With just a small jump from Australia, the time zones in Fiji were quite aligned to us as well. So although we do have agents available 24/7, it's quite beneficial to our company to have that strong communication during Australian office hours. We partnered with Centacom. So there was a few benefits for us doing Centacom in addition to the benefits of just Fiji as well. So we have fortnightly meetings with our leadership team. We have the similar time zone. They've got an office hub in Fiji. We have our dedicated success team, so that's our leadership team. It's really low cost but high quality. So we never want to compromise our high quality because it is so important to us. But having that low costing, it works out to be about 1/3 of our Australian wages, which is amazing. A self-training option to make sure that we are valuing time. They do quality audits. They do upskill training to make sure that the agents are on top of anything new that's rolling out and just constantly improving. The scalable agents as well. Statistic-wise, so when Centacom joined in with us, we were in crisis mode. That was June 2021. So they came on board and we had a ridiculous wait time. So although we had a really high customer care still, we really just irritated our customers because we lagged on responses. So in June 2021, we had 52,871 emails. Our response time was nearly 6 days. And that was our very first email to a customer outside of our bounce back. And it took us 6 days to resolve an issue, which, as you can imagine, from a customer point of view, that's very frustrating. So fast forward to March 2022, so last month, you can see our emails received has dropped down to 25,000. That's because we're not getting our multiple emails from customers. They're not trying to chase up us within that 5-day period. And then they're also not as irate. So you can kind of solve things a lot faster. Our first response time went from the nearly 6 days to 16 minutes. And our resolution time went from the 6 days to 2.5 hours. So huge drop. Our customer satisfaction, so 90 days prior to Centacom joining us, we had a 4.73 NPS score out of 5, and that has increased in the 90 days after, so the 4.79, which is incredible to see considering that 90 days after was when they very first started with us. So it was that brand new company in training. To give you a bit of an insight, I took the last week and a half worth of our customer reviews specifically just from Centacom. And I just cherry picked a few different ones from our customers, but even in the last week or week and a half, a lot of our customers were telling us how impressed they were with our customer support from Centacom, and also that it was the best customer service that they've encountered or have encountered in a very long time. So really incredible to see. Outcome for us, so using Centacom over the past 10 months, we've been able to improve our customer service, but also implement new touch points. So we reduced the cost to serve quite significantly. We reduced our customer resolution time, which I showed before. We reduced our customer first response time as well. We also had the availability to create new processes and SOPs. So from that, we actually saved further money by being able to refine our processes. We increased our customer satisfaction. We were able to add our chat function on our website. So we were able to meet the customer where they wanted to, and then come at more of a sales point of view and talk and increase our conversion. And then we also decreased our customer emails by solving their issues instantly. So as mentioned before, not that multiple emails. But yeah, so that's our journey for the Oodie partnering with Fiji. So thanks for listening to me today. I will stop sharing my screen.
Thank you so much, Charlotte. And I'm sure there will be some questions from the audience, but we'll just hold on to those, although you can pop them in a chat room if you think you might forget them. For now, I just wanted to share a poll on the screen. We're interested in learning from the audience today. I hope you can all see that. Where are you on your outsourcing journey? Don't outsource today, outsource to the Philippines, outsource to another country, outsource onshore or other. So we'd just like to gauge where the audience is at to help us tailor the rest of the event. I'll just give you all a few more seconds to vote. Okay, so 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and we are going to end the poll. And the results, just in case everyone's interested. Interestingly, 38% of people are not outsourcing currently. And then we have quite a mix. Okay, I'll stop that share. And we're going to continue on to our next presentation. And that is with Sarah Thomas, who is Head of Customer Experience at one of Australia's hottest consumer startups. You may have heard of them. The name is MILKRUN. So over to you, Sarah.
Thank you, Sharon. I'm just going to share my screen.
Sure.
Bring this up. Sorry, it's been a while since Zoom, so give me one moment.
Perfect.
Cool, that's working. Excellent. Yeah. Hi, everyone. As Sharon said, my name's Sarah, and I'm the head of CX at MILKRUN. For those of you who don't know, we are a grocery delivery service that promises to get groceries to our customers within 10 minutes from ordering through the app. Starting with groceries, eventually everything else. We're 8 months old at the moment, but we've experienced incredible growth over those 8 months. And our whole aim is from order to delivery to the aftercare, we provide the best customer experience to our customers across every interactive point. We also deliver fast. We have a fast delivery promise. So that means that in the rare occasion that something does go wrong, we have to make sure that it's fixed and fixed really, really quickly. You can't have a 10-minute delivery promise and then have hours to resolve an issue. So I'll go through a few of those stats later as well, but that's the overview of MILKRUN. We chose to outsource from the get-go. I've got a lot of experience outsourcing. This is my first time outsourcing in Fiji though. But the reason that we decided to outsource is we had huge growth and we needed the hours and volume to be covered. And having that ability to scale quickly with cost savings was super important for us in our growth. Diversification of locations. So I'm sure all of us have had through pandemics and weather events and whatnot, our operations have had some sort of hindrance over that time. We found that having, different teams in different locations was a fail-safe for us out there as well. And just, as I touched on previous experience, we know outsourcing works. We can get really great customer service and customer experience through outsourcing partners. We have signed up with our Pacific office, so with Brad, that's on the call as well. And the reason that we chose Fiji and our Pacific office was when I went out to market, employee experience is the #1 priority. We wanted to make sure that ethical employment, that the staff were really happy, treated well, and we found that across Fiji the most. We're also a startup environment, so we are not process heavy still. We're working things out as we go. So being able to have a team who can think on their feet, make things up and make sure that that service never wavers was super important. One of the case studies that I saw in Fiji were people who were looking after airlines with like missing luggage or last minute upgrades or missing flights. So to have that sort of ability to think like that and solve issues quickly without having that sort of knowledge base there for them was really important for us. We all know, well, I'm sure we do, that Fiji is known for their excellent customer service and their can-do attitude, and that is MILKRUN's vision. So that was also a really important component. And touching on what Charlotte said before, those communication skills needed to be A+. Like we do have a phone line and a lot of written communication. And we also have a customer base that loves to share us on social media and their experience. So making sure that communication is really strong is super important. So in the beginning, we launched a team of 3 customer support agents, and we launched them back in November of 21. We purposely started and launched the team when we knew the volume would be quite low from a customer support perspective, just so we could build on our processes and understand that volume that was coming in and what we needed to kind of inbuilt into our processes. And what that allowed was that we could regularly meet with the team and set up systems to encourage process improvement from the front line. So a lot of the processes and WOW interactions that we have today have actually come from ideas from the Fiji team themselves, and us being able to have those process improvement meetings and like, what are our customers saying? Tell us, how can we fix it? From that, we've been able to build a culture where we learn and grow together. So I just recently went across to Fiji. I was there last week, and I felt like I was in the MILKRUN office with the team, just the way that they were talking and engaging and wanting to help build our company. It felt like I was in the office at HQ, which was really cool. Our team look after a multitude of channels. So we've got our talk channels, We've got a huge following on social media, and a lot of our interactions come through there. We've also got text message, and our email is available for people to contact us on as well. And all the agents are across all channels, which is really cool. So now we have a team of 6 in Fiji, and we're about to add in another 4 on their way. So we're growing quite rapidly over the months, and projected to have, I think, 20 in customer support by the end of the year in Fiji. We've also started, so we started with customer support, but now we're actually looking at we just started taking on operational support as well. So HR, payroll, administrative tasks into the Fiji team. We're at 3,000 tickets a month for customer support, and even though that's quite volume heavy, we have a 97% customer satisfaction rating rolling for the last 3 months, and a plus 87 NPS score, which is really high. I've also got some reviews. So these were just from last week, and I pulled out, we get a multitude of reviews every week, but I pulled out some really cool ones just about the customer mentioning the customer support. So you've got to think, with our customers' journey, they're already getting a wow experience, having a whole load of groceries delivered to them within 10 minutes. And we also have like a bit of surprise and delight in that order. So for these customers to actually still call out customer support at the end of that, I think is really special, and just goes to show how great our team is. My favorite one is the one down the bottom, where there's like, you're the best company, the service of your riders is always great, but your customer service team was prompt and acted in a way that basically immediately repaired the problem. And that's exactly what our vision is for our customer support team. So that one made me quite proud. So what we've learned so far. So I've outsourced multiple locations. In comparison, from my experience, attendance in Fiji is really, really, really high. So we're not getting much unplanned shrinkage. We have really high attrition. It just hasn't been even a forecasting issue for us there in terms of attendance in the way that I've experienced in other places. Our customers love our team in Fiji. So if they're speaking to someone on their phone, they're like, hey, where are you from? Like, where are you located? And they're like, Fiji, like, oh my God, I was there 2 years ago. I can't wait to get back, and blows out my AHT, but that's fine because it's a great experience. But they love having a chat there as well. It's a quick trip. So if I need to head across to see the team, it's not that long of a flight. We can get across there fairly easily, and our team is located really close to the airport as well. So if we do get there, we can get there fast. They are, as I mentioned before, just super open and helping to improve our business and be the voice of the customer, which I think is the most important thing you can ask from a frontline team. They are hearing and experiencing what our customers are going through every day. So for them to be able to feed that back I couldn't ask for anything more, to be honest with you. We have found like that one team, one dream mission is super important. So it took over a lot of merch, gave them MILKRUN shirts. They're involved in every single... Oh, sorry. They are, yeah, just getting them involved in every meeting, every huddle, you know, as if they're in HQ office with us. And we actually don't have any KPIs apart from quality assurance, but I still obviously measure productivity and reporting and that on my end, and it's insanely high. I've actually had to lower my headcount forecast just due to the improvements that we have in attendance, and the efficiency that we've got was just beyond what I originally forecasted for. So that's a really good sign as well. So what's next? So yeah, we're forecasted to have a team of 20 by the end of the year across ops and customer support in Fiji. We're actually at that next stage where we're looking at promoting internally. So we're about to launch people up into being 2 ICs and team leaders, and doing that on the floor there in Fiji as well. And as I mentioned before, we've got that 97% CSAT rating. As our volume increases, that hasn't dropped. We're looking at keeping that up to where it is, which is really great. And that huge picture is just the Christmas, well, very delayed Christmas party that we had on last Wednesday of last week with the team, and all smiles. And that's the exact feel our customers get. That's it.
Thank you, Sarah. That was amazing, and congrats on those outcomes you're getting from Fiji in terms of Net Promoter Score, customer satisfaction, just outstanding. Okay, so that concludes our case studies, and we're going to now move to a panel discussion. And I'm going to be joined by 3 of the outsourcing companies in Fiji. First of all, it's my great pleasure to introduce Brad Russell, who is Managing Director of Our Pacific office.
Hi, everyone.
Based in sunny Nadi today.
A little bit cloudy today, Sharon.
Okay, you didn't have to say that. Then we have Anthony Kessa, who is Director of Centacom, Fiji.
Everyone.
Hey, and finally, Alan Graham, who is Chief Commercial Officer of Mindpearl, the very first BPO to set up in Fiji. So welcome,
Hi,
gentlemen.
everyone.
Hey, Alan. I'm going to start this discussion reflecting on those poll results where we had a large number of people that are outsourcing already are in the Philippines. And I want to talk about, well, what are the main differences between Fiji and the Philippines in terms of that value proposition? So Brad, could I get your comments on that in terms of what you're seeing, what your clients are saying?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Sharon, and thanks to Charlotte and Sarah for amazing case studies and letting everyone know what Fiji is all about. I was very proud to listen to both the experiences, to be honest. Look, some of the things that we find, firstly, Fijians love to work from the office, being very communal. They really are a come to work situation. I mean, even during COVID, some of us had some of the team working from home, and when they all came back into the offices, just to see that communal, celebration together, to all be together again. So it's certainly, that's one big thing that some of the feedback that I hear from the Philippines is that work from home model is still very much there. So so that's one kind of standout. The Australians and Fijians tend to work with a flatter management structure. So that hierarchy isn't the same as what it may be in the Philippines. The commute to work is also less of an issue here. So, so it's not likely to impact on the employees' overall job satisfaction. So that's from some of the feedback that I hear from Philippines. Some of the key things that you've already heard, but just to go over some of them, like the proximity to Australia is a huge one that we find when people are looking at both Philippines and Fiji as options. Obviously, the accent here is very, very neutral, so it's very hard to really depict exactly where you've called in from. Service culture comes naturally just because the Fijian culture, the way it is, that cultural alignment with Australia is huge. As a fellow Australian living here in Fiji, I see that firsthand every day with our team members, working with our Australian clients. The modern Fijians understand the Australian culture and the language and slot into the Australian teams seamlessly. Really strong client team interaction, which obviously creates that ease for training. So, and again, that comes down to that language and understanding of the Australian people as well, and the business community. But obviously the main one is the people. And if anyone on the call today has been to Fiji, I'm sure you totally understand where I'm coming from. It's where friendliness and happiness just comes naturally. And, you may have heard the Tourism Fiji slogan being where happiness finds you. And that really does happen here. I've been living here for nearly 10 years, and that bullet spirit here is very much alive. And what we see is that comes out in the attitude and the aptitude of the Fijians across the BPO network. So it's certainly, there's some huge differences to the experiences that you would get from the Philippines against the Fijians. Quite a few of our clients, and you would have heard from Sarah at MILKRUN, they've got a Philippine team as well as a Fijian team. We've probably got about another 4 or 5 of our clients that are like that. We love that because they're able to benchmark the two against each other. In fact, my business partner, Stuart, who was our first client as well from Connection Airport Transfers, he still has a Fiji originally had Philippines team and an Australian team, and then introduced Fiji. Interesting enough, he doesn't have an Australian team anymore, and the Fiji team is the key of all of his call center work that's coming out. So hopefully that gives you a bit of an insight.
Yeah, fantastic. Some great points you made there, Brad. Alan, I know you also at Mindpearl operate locations in Fiji and other countries. What are the standouts? If Brad has covered them all, that's okay. But what would you say in terms of the advantages of Fiji?
Yeah, I think I won't repeat what Brad's covered. I did a good job there, I think, of pulling out the main components. I would stick with the people and the attitude and the way that the eagerness to learn. And I think where Fiji is different from some of our other locations is that if I go back to 2009 when we launched in Fiji, the contact center sector and the BPO sector was not really an obvious choice for people. It didn't really exist. So we today, sort of 12 years later, have got people who have grown with the business and have developed with the business. So what we see in Fiji is as well as that eagerness to learn, it's in straight contact center terms, our attrition rates are actually very attractive compared with some of our other locations. And people see Fiji and people in Fiji see the BPO sector as a true career path. So for example, we've got people that started in 2009 as a contact center agent who are now running the quality department, the training department, so on and so forth. So it's been a real career progression for people. And that is different to the way someone looks at a contact center role in a city like Sydney or Auckland or Cape Town. So that there's a big difference there. And that comes through on the people side.
Thank you, Alan. Anthony is from Centacom once again. In terms of the pricing, is there much difference between the Philippines and Fiji?
Well, my understanding is we don't have an operation in the Philippines, but taking feedback from many of our clients, some of which have had experience in the Philippines or actually have another operation there, I understand we're price competitive and in some instances better priced. And I think that it's not just to price, because I say we're price comparative, but I think there's more value that we offer for all those reasons that Brad and Alan have gone through. So from a pricing standpoint, absolutely, we don't have people haggle. They actually usually pleasantly surprised when we send through our proposal and do it.
Sure, and I guess the airfare from Australia to Fiji is also a little less than site visits out to Manila.
Absolutely, and that all matters. Like I mean, side of school holiday times, we've had a few clients looking to try and come up right now, like Easter, and they're like, "Oh, okay, well, we'll just push it into the backside of Easter when the price is literally half of what it is during school holiday times." But most times, yes, it's the cost is not exorbitant to get up here, and very easy trip, and we definitely encourage and get customers in particular are coming to visit and be part of their team.
Are you finding that when clients do come for a site visit that they try to tack on a holiday as well? Is that one of the sort of unspoken advantages you see of the Fiji proposition?
We spruik it. So definitely it's basically 100% of the people that come up here to see their team will tack on a holiday. So it's a work and don't
blame them. I want to. Yeah,
no, definitely.
If I could just stick with you, Anthony, as well, because COVID is obviously something we need to talk about, the elephant in the room. And we talked about how in the Philippines, a lot of people don't want to go back in the office to work, having got used to the work from home during lockdowns. Is it different in Fiji through COVID? Could you just give a sense of how you've managed during the pandemic?
Absolutely. And look, I think that's one of our key differentiators, with not just historically with what's happened over the last 2 years. What's happened there was we didn't have COVID in Fiji for a year, which was great in terms of giving them a lead time to ready and vaccinated. It had the minimal possible effect. Obviously, it did have an effect. And also it put us in a position as a company, and I'd say the same for Brad and Alan's operations, that we had to set up, or forced to set up, a work from home capability. And at one point, and not that we had to, but we just gave it a try to see if we could do 100% work from home capability, which worked out very well. I mean, obviously there was a little bit of an effect on productivity, but not much. And it enabled us to sort of said, try out that capability. We had a lot of government support, which was really important. And then government came out straight away, no umming and ahhing, no leave it to the employer. We had a no jab, no job policy, so it wasn't left to the employer to battle that out. And we were deemed as contact center services. They see it as so important. They deemed us an essential service, which basically allowed us to have our teams attending the office for the last 2 years, all the way through the pandemic, which was really big plus for us, and our clients in Australia and elsewhere in the world got to benefit from that. So they were two really important things, and that's manifested itself also in we've got 100% vaccinated workforce, which again allows us to manage this whole pandemic situation ongoing. And just generally in Fiji now, we've got actually very low transmission rates. We haven't got breakouts happening in the office. Australia is obviously, for those who are in Australia, are going through another wave again now, and we're seeing our Australian clients quite heavily impacted with this disruption. So I know it might have moved on to an endemic rather than a pandemic, but the effect on Australian businesses. So what we've seen in Australia, which is again ongoing challenge for Australian customers, is they're having trouble finding employees across the board. And when they do find them, they train them, they're having trouble keeping them in those seats, especially customer service. So that is proving to be a very attractive element for Fijians, because we've got people absolutely lining up for jobs, and we've taken on hundreds of employees over the last 9 months in particular, because of these pressures that Australian companies are going, and the interest is just increasing. We just think that the word is spreading that Fiji is the hub for outsourcing in the Pacific for all those reasons that Alan, Brad, and Charlotte and Sarah mentioned. And yes, we've got very high attendance rates and people lining up for work to be part of these amazingly progressive Australian companies, whether they be e-commerce or legacy brands that all have e-commerce platforms. Everyone's looking for that wonderful customer service, and the Fijians are ready, willing, waiting to do it. We are doing open days in our recruitment because we just can't get to handle the volume of people looking to Australian companies wanting people to work, and Fijians that are wanting to work. So we're the opposite to what's going on in Australia. We've just got like literally the volume of new people coming on board who are really, really eager to work. And as Alan mentioned, that they really cherish these roles, which it's not just pigeonholed into a customer service agent. There are career paths for them that we give. And as Brad mentioned, Sarah mentioned, it don't just start with customer service. You're building confidence with the client, and then we are getting clients coming and asking for, oh, look, can you hire a business development manager for us? Can you hire an accounts receivable, payable, debt collection person for us? So, and again, they are more highly skilled jobs. And of course, they cost a bit more than a customer service agent, but it's still, as Charlotte mentioned, about a third of the price of what you might get any of those roles for in Australia. So really exciting to be creating all these jobs and to see, the Australian companies coming in and heaps of Fijians. Doesn't seem to be an end. There's no end in sight for the amount of people wanting to come and work in the office.
Okay, fantastic, Anthony. So I guess the key message is that Fiji offers the answer to Australia's workforce shortage with its workforce surplus. And I guess a lot of people would have come across from the tourism industry, which suffered during COVID, with all those customer service skills bringing with them.
They are. And if I speak to that just for 1 second, sorry to wrap it on, but because of that, they had that hit to the tourism industry. There are families that were perhaps all employed in the tourism industry before, but they're now looking to diversify and not all have their eggs all in basket. So I guess we're a little bit worried that we might see a flow back to the tourism industry, but it's not happening. They like their jobs in customer service, they're happy, and they're really happy to be part of progressive Australian company.
Fantastic. In addition to COVID, obviously there are challenges with natural disasters like cyclones we all hear about in that part of the world. If I could turn to you, Alan, because you've been operating in Fiji longer than anyone really, how has the BPO industry fared during some of those powerful cyclones?
From our perspective, we've been fortunate, but we've been prepared for it, I think, is probably the easiest way to address that. We have a facility which ticks all the boxes in terms of resilience. So in terms of telephony, in terms of data feeds, we've taken it to the next step where we've got our own on-site water storage supply. We actually have quite a large facility. So when we have a cyclone situation, then yeah, we've got the shutters. People come into the office often because the only way of saying this is it's actually a safer environment possibly than people's own homes. So we've got a large facility with lots of breakout areas. People have actually taken their kids with them when they know there's a cyclone approaching. And I think putting all these things in place, it's something that does happen regularly in Fiji, and we know it's going to happen. So let's get ready for it. And all those measures we've put in place, the on-site water is important, obviously, the generation facility, the UPS facility. So I can honestly say that and this is not sales talk, I can honestly say that over the last 12 years, we've had a total of less than 5 minutes outage in any of the cyclone situations. The worst being a couple of years back with Cyclone Winston, which was quite devastating. But because of those measures that have been put in place, they work, and we've managed to continue operations. One important thing, I think, is working with the authorities, so working with the government. So when you know there's bad weather situation coming along, we apply to the government, we get permits, because we actually run our own transport for the staff to make sure the staff get to and from work safely. And when the weather event's approaching, a curfew is often put in place, so there's no vehicles on the road, but we get an exemption for that. And we've built up that relationship over the years with the government bodies. So that's also a very important aspect of business continuity.
Fantastic. And I'm sure you have the generators and UPS on the technology side to keep everything running if there's any outages in
Indeed.
power or anything like that. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, just one more point before we wrap up this panel discussion. If somebody in the audience today wanted to just dip their toes in the water and just start with 2 or 3 FTE in Fiji, Brad, if I could turn to you, how does that work? I mean, a lot of people have this misconception that you need to have a huge volume to justify outsourcing, but can you accommodate the smaller needs or pilot programs?
Yeah, thanks, Sharon. Yeah, we've built our business on having that approach, to be quite frank. I mean, when we started back in 2017, it was let's just give this a go. And, you know, like I said, we had our first client being Connection. They started a team of 4, and they grew with tourism, but they got to about 18 before COVID. So that was from a startup of 4. But we've got teams here that have started with one person. And I used to say, when I used to do the interviewing, and I used to say to them, you have an ability here to change the economy of Fiji, because if you come in and do a good job, our client will grow the team. It's just a natural progression that will happen, you know. And that particular person that I did that interview for, you know, that team's gone from 1 to 10. that was probably in about 8 to 9 months, and it will continue to grow, so we work on a fact of, you can start small and grow big. You can start small and stay small. I mean, it's really working on the fact of what the client's needs are. Time frame to go to WO. Once that agreement's signed, we get the JD, we go out to market, and usually anywhere between 1 week to 2 weeks, we'll definitely have candidates in front of you. And then it depends on whether, they've got to give their own notice, but you can turn it around very, very quickly if someone wants to dip their toe into the water.
So you could literally be up and running in a few weeks from today.
Correct, absolutely.
Okay,
We have that a lot.
Yeah, and also I think Anthony mentioned it earlier that it's not just customer service, customer support, that you can get a whole range of roles. Is there any role that is not suitable to Fiji, or could you literally outsource your whole back office? Brad, back to you.
Sorry, Sharon.
Yeah, just in terms of the other roles apart from contact center.
Yeah. So for firstly, it's a great question right at the moment, because we just finalised on a new recruit that's going to be an engineer. So this is an existing client that we've got in Brisbane. He's actually in the education industry, but he's also got, I don't know, a construction business or whatever it might be. But anyway, he wanted us to go out and find an engineer. So we've got a great candidate that was working for quite a large engineering firm here, an Australian-based one, that will be moving over and doing the engineering work from here. And he will be paid, I think it was Anthony that mentioned, that some of these roles are at a higher level, so they'll be paid adequately, but there's still those cost savings for the Australian client. So, but when you talk about a back office, so we've got one client in Suva that basically has got their entire back office, right through from accounts payable to customer support to they've got an electrical engineering on site, company accountant. They've basically set up the entire head office operation out of Fiji. So wow. It's certainly the scope is fairly wide. The way I work on, the principle that we work on is, if a client asks for a certain role, I won't say no. I'll just say, let's go and give it a crack. We'll go out to market, see what we get some candidates in front of you, and then you make the call of whether they're at the level that you need them to be. And in 99 times out of 100, we can normally get the right candidate for them. And I certainly would be able to speak that's a general Fijian thing. The way I look at it is, if that back office operation is currently happening in Fiji in any sort of business, well, we can provide it for an Australian company or any company around the world.
Fantastic. Okay, that wraps up our panel discussion. Thank you to Brad, Anthony, and Alan. And now we're going to get to the part where everybody gets to ask all the difficult questions for our panelists, and also Charlotte and Sarah will come back for this portion if you have any questions for them. We do have a question from Hoi Yen in the chat room, so please enter your questions in the chat room, or you can unmute, and that will be a signal to me that you want to speak to ask a question. So Hoi Yen is asking, it would be good to know what the cost structure looks like. Is it per head, per hour? And I know that there are different models out there. For example, I know there's the managed service model, there's a staff leasing model. So I might get comments from a couple of our panelists. Alan, could I get you first to address this one? What sort of pricing models does Mindport offer?
Yeah, in our experience, traditionally it's been an FTE model that clients have generally been looking for. However, that's changed in the last few years. So we have a range, everything, and I think everything from FTE to per event to per minute, getting into the nitty-gritty. Some clients want a fully loaded cost. Some clients would like a per productive hourly rate or a productive event rate. So essentially, they're only paying for the actual productive time. And we obviously take account of things like sickness, vacation, and training. And then at the other end of the scale, we have open book models, where it's simply similar, I think, perhaps to the managed service, where the client really wants to see the staff as their staff. They want to know exactly what their salary is, what their benefits are, and then MindPearl would add on a fee for managing that on behalf of the client. So there's no real restrictions, and we have a big range of different models available. That answers the question.
Fantastic. Brad, could I come back to you, because I know in your business you really focus on the staff leasing model, which is very popular in the Philippines as well, but it's where the client has more control over the operation, and the team in Fiji report back to the client. Can you talk to us about how that works from a pricing perspective?
Yeah, sure. So what we offer is a fully inclusive monthly FTE pricing. So the only thing that the client would pay over and above that would be if there was overtime, which is obviously approved by the client, or any kind of special, which we do a lot of, special dinners or lunches or bonuses and all of that type of thing. So otherwise, from a client's point of view, they can see straight up front what the pricing is, and all of the inclusion. So it's basically there's that whole operation for them can work from desk to laptop to the internet requirements. There's absolutely no more to pay. And as Sharon mentioned, we really go into that team leasing model where they're actually your team. As Sarah mentioned in her update before, she came over with the MILKRUN uniform. So if they want to wear the company uniform, they can. It's your culture. So we obviously have our culture, our Pacific office culture, and then we allow the client to have their individual culture with their individual teams. So most every day, each team out there is linking into their office, whatever the head office might be in Australia, doing their daily catch-ups. What does the day look like? What does the week look like? That type. It's purely just an extension of the office. For example, if your head office is in Brisbane and you've got an office in Perth, it's closer in Fiji. And that's the way we look at it. It's really just a satellite office of your current office situation.
Thank you. Back to that pricing, Anthony. So could we actually, for people who haven't got experience offshoring, put some numbers around what sort of dollar range do most roles fall into in customer service and back office based on an hourly rate in Fiji?
Yes. Well, it depends. Just like Alan and Brad have mentioned, we're also running multiple different models depending on the client needs, whether they're self-managed or fully managed from our end. And you're probably looking, and depending on what system. So sometimes a client brings their own system, and sometimes we deploy our system for customer contact management. So look, shooting from the hip, it's probably somewhere between $11, $12 per agent hour, maybe 13, depending on level of complexity. And like I said, whether it's self-managed, managed, or with and the systems are being deployed, would be rough rule of thumb.
Okay, thank you. Hoyen, did that answer?
And per agent hour, but look, that covers as what's been said. That's fully loaded. That covers all leave entitlements and everything. So the customer doesn't have to worry about other things. And we run a model where they've got a bum on the seat. They want 5 people, then they're always going to have 5 people in that seat, and that's covered in that rate.
Got it.
Yeah. Thanks, Anthony. So when you say $11 to $13 an hour, is that the US dollars or is that Australian dollars? Australian. Okay.
Yeah.
That's very competitive, actually. I think currently we are paying about $12 US. That's kind of where we are.
In the Philippines.
Yeah, in the Philippines.
Yeah. Interesting.
I thought I'd just jump in there quickly as well, just to give a bit of an insight. We have a Philippines team at the Oodie that were in place before I started my role back in 2020. And then we've also taken on, obviously, our Centacom Fiji team, and it's worked out to be about $3 Australian an hour cheaper going with our Fijian team. And we've actually got a higher customer satisfaction rating with our Fiji team. So although we're slowly kind of transitioning over, so although we're not going to do like redundancies in our Philippines team. As those people have turned like natural progression and turnover, we then just up staff in our Fiji, because it's cost wise so much better for us, like $3 an hour when we have like 30 agents. That's like quite a lot dollar wise, but then our customer satisfaction is much higher as well.
Yeah, and you can reinvest those savings in different new technologies to improve the customer experience, I'm sure. Would anyone like to unmute themselves and ask a question of any of our panelists? Angela.
Yes, I have a question, thank you. And firstly, very interested in the whole Fiji piece. I've not actually thought of Fiji as an outsourcing place before. We've got about 200 agents that we outsource to the Philippines. We've got a couple of sites there. So yeah, very interested. My question's for Charlotte. I'm really keen. I know that you said that you don't operate under a voice channel. And to me, I'm just so interested in that, because we actually don't use email anymore. We haven't used email for a couple of years because we found that, you know, our best performing channels were our live channels. So I'm just interested in the customer feedback from the Oodie in terms of not being able to speak to somebody on the phone, and so why you took that approach.
If we look back at like the June 2021 and versus the March one now as well, what the customer is experiencing and how they felt about having phone versus not phone is very different between those months. So when we had all those, like that 52,000 emails, the customers weren't happy that we only had that we only had email. We didn't have chat then either. But that was because our resolution and first response time was like 6 days, which is pretty disgusting, really. So in that, they wanted phone because they wanted that instantaneous like communication and resolution, whereas a lot of the issues that we were facing were too complex to kind of be able to do it then and there on the phone. So we chose to kind of remain with email. However, now our customers love it because when they're emailing in, they're getting a response within 16
really
minutes.
Quickly.
Yeah, and that's not taking into consideration our bounce back. So obviously they get their automated bounce back, but it's 16 minutes with a live agent on average, and then our resolution time being like within that 2 hours. So they're getting everything, as long as the customer service is really high and like the communication with the customer is really high. We always make sure that we preempt their next question. So all of our macro replies are written out. It's really hard to pick that they are pre-written replies as well. But as long as you've got that high level of customer service and the communication is instantaneous, people don't mind. Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Angela. Would anyone else like to ask a question?
Hey, Sharon. Rod here from Baby Bunting. I've just got a question about, I guess, the industry attrition and turnover rates and replacement. You know, I guess, you know, my journey's probably followed starting in India and looking at the Philippines, and, you know, each of those as they reach a maturity, you know, attrition and turnover tends to kind of reach a problem point. How are you finding that and approaching that in the market?
Maybe Anthony, could you take that one?
I think, and I speak for probably like all of us here, is that that's one of the shining things about Fiji, and we have a very high staff retention or low staff attrition rates. And look, we pay above average wages, all of us, even though that's a low rate that you've got, that we've charged Australian customers. We still like almost double the average wage for Fiji, and we look after our staff. You know, we've got the great staff benefit programs. It's a package, and you know they get taxi, they get the transport home, and you know we have a really nice work environment. Our location here has harbour views. It's very attractive, even compared to what a lot of Australian office locations have. So, and again, it's a job that people cherish here, but it really comes down to the kind of culture that you build in the office, and we've managed to build a wonderful office culture. So that all dovetails back into keeping our staff here, who all love their jobs, and all, you know, we develop them through staff development, and we invest in them with, you know, educational courses and the like, and upskilling all the time. So that all works to about a staff retention rate of around about 5%, which is, I can't only speak for our company in that regard, but I think in general in Fiji, we're running a lot lower staff attrition rates than other traditional contact center locations like India and Philippines.
Thanks, Anthony. I think you said staff retention is 5%, but you meant attrition, right? Staff attrition is 5%.
Yeah, per annum.
Yeah, per annum. Yeah. And Brad, is that roughly what you're seeing? Single digit annual attrition?
Correct. We were at 3%, but in saying that, we're also located in an area that got extremely impacted by COVID, because we're in the west in Nandi, so which is all like the tourism meccas. So yeah, literally that's why we were turning around jobs real quick, because I literally walking in, they could start the next day at certain periods. But the one thing that I've identified is that the team members, and I'm sure I can speak on behalf of all the BPO operators in Fiji, but the team members that are working in our industry, they reflect upon it as a white collar job, where, often in Australia, it's the job before you get the next job type thing, where we're here in Fiji, the minute they get a job in a nice environment, as Anthony mentioned, nice views, good working environment, air-conditioned office, because a lot of the offices aren't. A lot of the businesses here, like even working in a resort, it might look nice because we're on holiday when you've come over, you're holidaying and enjoying it. But at the end of the day, those team members are walking and working in 30-degree plus temperatures. So all of a sudden now you put them in an office environment, it's a professional environment, and they're in nice aircon comfort. It just, and it's all about, it's not, as Anthony said, we all pay over. We all pay over the good money per hour rate, but it's also the environment that they work in, that the money sometimes becomes secondary, and what becomes paramount is the actual environment that they're working in, and the team bonding and Sarah was over last week. You saw it, right? It was there live. So I remember Sarah made a comment. She goes, I just can't believe how many of the other team members from other clients just keep on coming up and wanting to know, and so excited that they're there. And I can tell you that would have been the talk of the lunchrooms, like, oh, wow, we've got MILKRUN here at the moment, So yeah, it's certainly the environment that they're working out of, I think, is a huge plus.
Thank you so much, Brad. Did that answer the question, Rod?
Yeah, it did. Thanks very much for the response.
Okay, we have time for one last question. Would anyone like to ask it? No? I just want to wrap up with the government support side of the industry. Is the government really thinking of the BPO industry as the next tourism industry for Fiji? Is that the level of seriousness with which they're trying to grow the market? Anthony?
Look, yes. They've the BPO outsourced Fiji, which was BPO Council before that. It now has government funding. And that government funding is also extended to awareness campaigns throughout, Australia, New Zealand, and the world. But also, they've put money into the education. They're now running contact center specific tertiary education courses at the University of South Pacific and other tertiary education places in Fiji. And so that. You're getting that government funding, and they're targeting tens of thousands of jobs for the growth industry. So yes, I would say that they've identified that the opportunity that the BPO outsource industry is for Fiji to rival tourism, really, in job creation, and also well-paid jobs where the staff can, as Brad mentioned, be working in good environments. So, and also on the other side of it, they've put significant tax incentives in place to make it more competitive. So for us to keep our fixed costs down, again, that all helps us pay our staff more while still delivering a cost competitive rate to Australian international businesses. So tax breaks, for example, in the last budget, they came out and it's tax-free for people that own buildings to rent them to BPOs, and with the thought that that will be passed on to the BPO, and again reflected in maintaining a lower cost base, and also that for BPOs have a tax-free for a certain number of years. I think it's close to 20 years. And again, that allows us, certainly in our circumstances, the company to reinvest our profits into our staff and into expanding our operations. So yes, the government support is significant across a whole range of levers that they're using for us to keep our costs low.
Thank you, Anthony. Well, that's actually a wrap, because the clock's hit 1, and that brings our event to a close. Thank you to everyone, the speakers, everyone who attended. I'm going to be sending around a short survey to see what you thought. It will take literally 30 seconds to respond, if you don't mind. Also, in that survey, we will give you the choice of 4 different white papers about Fiji, which we can then send you. I will also be following up with everyone to see if you'd like to get in touch with anyone that was on the panel today, and I can facilitate those introductions. And of course, answer any questions you may have. Rod has just asked if there will be a recording of this session, and the answer is yes. So we will make sure you get that so you can share it with your colleagues. So thank you so much again. And I wish you a wonderful day ahead. Stay safe and stay well, and see you next time.
Thanks, Sharon.
Thanks all.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.